Buhari warns against act of legalism.
Let me also use this opportunity to commend the army for its unwavering commitment towards curtailing the activities of insurgents.
National Assembly members seek end to insecurity, call for restructuring the country's security architecture.
Information and Culture Minister challenges Nigerian broadcasters to lead in telling nation's story to guard against distortion of facts by foreign media.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the rise in airfares, plus Ghana's general elections.
Now, the aviation sector, no doubt, is one of the sectors badly affected by COVID-19 pandemic following the total lockdown of the economy.
Air travels, both local and international, were prohibited, leading to the grounding of commercial aircraft for several months.
Well, this development prompted some airline owners to lay off some of their workers as the airlines are yielding no revenue, yet are incurring maintenance costs. According to Captain Nogie Megison, chairman of the Airline Operators of Nigeria, the coronavirus pandemic has cost domestic carriers nearly 400 billion naira, resulting in thousands of staff being laid off. These economic challenges being faced by the airlines propelled them to hike the flight fares in recent period, which have led to the hue and cry by passengers. Now, the cost of air tickets, of course, has now been increased in some cases by well over 100% on some routes, making it difficult for many air travelers to cope with the exorbitant fares. So why the sudden hike in the airfares? Could it be attributed to increase in the number of passengers willing to travel by air in view of the difficulty associated by land travels? Are the airlines using the hike to recoup their losses as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic? These are some of the issues we intend to tackle as we discuss hike in air fares. This is Good Morning Nigeria. I am Jumwe Yusuf. Good to have you join us. And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I, of course, joined my colleague, Jumai, and also welcome you to this edition of Good Morning Nigeria. We're reaching live on the network service of the Information Authority, and we're broadcasting from our Abuja headquarters studios. And as you can hear from Jumai's voice, and as you can see, our glistening face is just back from a well-earned vacation. And Jumai, yes, good to have you back on Good Morning Nigeria. Yes, I had a good time, good rest, but I'm back now. All right. So let's hope that the pitch of your voice continues. I hope so. I'm sure after a few weeks when the stress begins to tell, then we might see that. Jumai Yusuf, delight having you back on Good Morning Nigeria. All right. Now, apart from the increase in airfares, we shall also discuss the Ghana's general elections, which took place yesterday, Monday the 7th of December. And as usual, we have our complimentary segments, including newspaper review, business news, and others. But first, let's join Tessie Omiri for the morning news. Hello, Tessie.
Hi, Jumai. Good morning and welcome to the news. President Muhammadu Buhari has warned that any act of hooliganism hiding behind lawful and peaceful protests will be dealt with decisively. The president gave the warning while declaring open the 2020 Chief of Army Staff Annual Conference virtually. He was emphatic that there is no compromising the peace and stability of the country.
To commend the Army for its unwavering commitment towards curtailing the activities of insurgents, armed bandits, kidnappers, cattle rustlers, and other violent criminals through ongoing exercises and operations in different parts of the country.
Members of the National Assembly from Kaduna State have advocated restructuring of the country's security architecture and proper implementation of community policing to tackle security challenges bedeviling the country. This was during a security meeting with the Kaduna State Executive Council members, traditional rulers and local government chairmen in Kaduna.
The first step to be taken is to look into the structuring For me, restructuring means different things for different people. We believe there must be state police if we want to solve the problem of insecurity in this country.
Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has challenged broadcast practitioners in the country to take the lead in telling the Nigerian story in order to guard against distortion of facts by a section of the foreign media. The minister gave the charge at the inauguration of Ogoilu 89.3 FM station on the stable of the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria in Oko, Oyo State.
A situation in which foreign broadcast stations arrogate to themselves the power to tell our own story gives room for distortion of facts, the type of which we saw recently when CNN reported that 38 people were killed at Lekki toll gate.
Nigerian startups have joined more than 200 of their counterparts from over 60 countries in participating at the 40th Gulf Information Technology Exhibition GTEX 2020, taking place in Dubai World Trade Center. The event, which has as its theme inspiring the next decade of breakthroughs, reinforces post-pandemic recovery, offering the over 100,000 visitors a real-life platform to explore opportunities and challenges beyond COVID-19.
Participate just to see what has been taking place, but rather to ensure that we get more investors that are willing to invest in Nigeria, and secondly, to get technology transfer.
The 12th National Council on Industry, Trade and Investment is facilitating the creation of more than 19 million jobs in priority sectors of agriculture, transportation, construction and services by 2024. It is a proposal by the Industrial Training Fund and part of deliberations at the meeting presided over by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Nasser Sani Gwarzo in Abuja.
Competitive industrial base triggered by demands toward the attainment of massive production.
The Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is vigorously implementing the 14 presidential priority projects as assigned by the present administration.
Towards a universal health care service delivery, stakeholders are sourcing for healthcare fund from available avenues. The Federal Ministry of Health unveiled the revised implementation guideline for basic health care provision. This fund at a media briefing in Abuja.
Our mission as custodians of population health is to build a health system that guarantees availability of universal access to appropriate, equitable, comprehensive, affordable, efficient, and quality health care for Nigerians.
And now to update on COVID-19. Latest figures from NCDC indicate that 390 new cases of COVID-19 have been recorded in 20 states. The breakdown, according to states, shows that FCT and Gombe have the highest new infections of 89, followed by Kaduna State with 62. Lagos has 35, Kwara 15, Borno 13, Nasarawa and Rivers have 10 each, while Bauchi and Ogun States also have 8 new cases each. Others are Osun, Bayelsa and Kano confirmed 7 new cases each. Edo and Taraba have 6, Ekiti and Katsina have 5 each. Akwa Ibom has 4, Delta 3, while Sokoto has 1. That is new infection. With this development, Nigeria has 69,645 confirmed cases of COVID-19, out of which 64,947 were treated and discharged, while 1,181 deaths recorded. And that concludes the morning news highlights. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kingsley and Jumwe after this break. Good morning.
A scorecard like no other. Government has put in place measures and initiatives principally targeted at youths, women, and the most vulnerable groups in our society. These included a broad plan to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years, the creation of 75 billion naira National Youth Investment Fund to provide opportunities for the youths and the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Survivor Fund, through which government is A. Paying 3-month salaries of the staff of 100,000 micro, small and medium enterprises. B. Paying for the registration of 250,000 businesses at the Corporate Affairs Commission. C. Giving a grant of 30,000 naira to 100,000 artisans and guaranteeing market for the product of traders. These are in addition to many other initiatives such as farmer money, trader money, market money, N-Power, N-Tech, and N-Agro. These and more in spite of a recession and a global pandemic. Although social media as a channel of communication is inherently harmless, it becomes harmful and damaging when used without discretion and thoughtfulness. Bad social media users spread rumors and fake news without verification. But good social media users stop, reflect, and verify information before sharing it. Be a good social media user. Stop the spread of fake news. Verify the authenticity of your source and use social media responsibly for a better Nigeria. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, in collaboration with the National Orientation Agency. The Council of Our Fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Life can be very eventful. We curiously expect things to happen, even when we don't know what. Our human nature makes us like and repost lots of information. Some are unverified, inciting anger and hate. Sometimes innocently, other times the urge to break it first. This, in most cases, has caused destruction in many nations.
Thanks for joining us. Now, federal government targets economic growth through efficient deployment of energy forms. Let's join Kunle Ade for details.
With most of the small and medium enterprises depending on energy for optimal performance, the federal government believes effective energy codes and guidelines are pivotal to achieving this. Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, says the general framework is to guide people in the business.
Nigeria also optimizing the opportunities for employment and economic growth that are inherent in the development of cleaner and efficient energy forms. So there are many opportunities there, and I see that things can only get better from here, and because the journey is already underway.
In another development, some economic analysts have appealed to the 3 tiers of government to revive the manufacturing sector to help the economy navigate its present challenges.
The manufacturing sector is where we place a lot of hopes. For example, while agriculture is growing 1.58%, it should do more because population growth is 3.5%. But the manufacturing, agro-processing is important.
Manufacturing sector goes beyond just that production. It also has to do with trade. Because if you produce and you don't sell, it means you are still sitting on the square zero.
To them, the sector is pivotal to economic growth since it can engage a large proportion of the youth population. With Business News, I'm Kunle Adeyeye.
All right, many thanks, Kunle Adeyeye, for the business package. Coming up next is Newspaper Review.
And our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Toby, is in the studio. Bayo, it's good to see you.
Juma, welcome back. Good to see you again. I hope you rested well.
Yeah, I did.
Welcome.
I'm even feeling sleepy now, waking up.
Good morning, Kinsley.
Yeah,
good morning, Nigeria.
Good to see you. All right, so Juma, let's begin with you.
Yeah, we begin with the Nation newspaper this morning, just above the masthead. We see Kaduna plans community policing to tackle insecurity. You find that story on page 8. Buhari to address Joint National Assembly Thursday. Details on page 8. Boko Haram in Southwest as kidnappers, says Fayemi. Details on page 10. Asset declaration, Magu honors CCB invitation. You still find the details on page 8. And you can see the picture story there. Members of the Plateau State chapter of the Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, ALGON, and Nigerian Union of Teachers, NUT, protesting the non-payment of their salary and the 30,000 minimum wage in Yakubu Gowon Way in Jos yesterday. And just above the picture story, CGN to swear in 72 SANS December 14th. You find details on page 6. Autumn condemns attack on APC chair's home. Details on page 34. APC, PDP clash over call for president's impeachment. With riders, opposition party says it is constitutional. Buhari, National Assembly on same page. You find details on page 6. Oshomole, I am not plotting to return as APC chair. You find the details on page 8 too. And Buhari warns NSAS protesters to stay off streets. You find the details on page 6. At the bottom plate of the Nation newspaper, 2 foreigners barred from NIS, NSSCDC recruitment. And you find details on page 38. Kano APC to register members. Details on page 34. Kinsley?
All right, let's also take a look at the front page of the Punch newspaper above the name flag. Nigeria's Q3 trade deficit hits 2.38 trillion naira, highest since 2017. That's according to the Bureau of Statistics. ACF, Arewa Consultative Forum, visits Borno, says nothing left for northern children. That's page 9. And on page 7, Buhari to address Joint National Assembly sitting on Thursday. 2 earpieces beside the nameplate says reps tackle PDP caucus over call for Buhari's impeachment. Will resuscitate Ajaokuta Steel or mining firm. That's according to the federal government. This story comes with a kicker. It says fresh harsh NSAS protests. Campaigners adamant and Buhari talks tough, deploys soldiers and cops with 3 riders. Prepare for more protests. Our demands have not been met, say protesters. Any hooligan hiding behind peaceful protests will be dealt with. That's according to the president. Police and soldiers storm Lekki and commands warn youth. The protesters flee police in Osogbo. Insecurity. Kaduna acting governor, lawmakers and monarchs and others meet. See the photographs there on the front page. Details are on page 9. Cameroonian and Beninese arrested as 191,000 take immigration and civil defense recruitment exam. That's page 8. Borno local government teachers receiving below 18,000 naira minimum wage. That's according to the NUT. Details on page 7. Youth destroy Benue APC chairman's house and cars over death of security man. APC holds NEC meeting today, false litigation. And traders lament as fire guards furniture shops in Niger. We have details on pages 4 and 5 and on page 17 in greater detail. Airports concession and others will go ahead despite opposition, says the federal government. Bayo.
Thank you, Kinsley. Let's start with the warning from Mr. President that any act of hooliganism lurking under the cloak of lawful and peaceful protest will be dealt with decisively. The President said so, that there is determination to ensure peace and stability in the country are sustained. He was declaring open virtually the 2020 Chief of Army Staff Conference. The President recalled that the NSAS protests were sadly hijacked and caused wanton damage to lives and property. He commended the Nigerian Armed Forces for swiftly restoring law and order during the large-scale criminality that ensued at the end of the NSAS process. On the theme of the conference, which was human capacity development, sustaining professionalism and responsiveness, the Commander-in-Chief commended the commitment of the Army in his unwavering commitment towards curtailing activities of insurgents, armed bandits, kidnappers, cattle rustlers, and other violent crimes. He commended the Sahel Sanity Initiative in the Northwest to rid it of banditry, as well as the Fireball in the Northeast. He called for sustained effects. However, the highlight of the occasion was the tribute he paid to those who lost their lives and also highlighting the housing scheme for the next of kin of those who were killed while on duty for the nation. Speculations about the second NSAS protest in some states were knitted in the bud, according to this day. However, there are reports indicating that the NSAS protesters came on the streets in Osogbo. This day reports that security agents, including military and police personnel, took over strategic locations in some states' capital. Organizers had rallied on the social media saying that they were going for the second round of the protest because their demands have not been met. The Commissioner of Police in Lagos, Hakeem Odumosu, had warned that another NSAS protest, a replica of the recent disturbances and violent NSAS protests that left pains and agonies in Lagos, will be resisted. He said, gathering and procession and all such activities are banned. He said the government of Lagos, businesses, individuals, and security families are still groaning in the losses and pains of the violent NSAS of the last one. And he says that gathering and protest will be suppressed professionally and in accordance with the law. President Muhammadu Buhari is to address the joint session of the National Assembly on Thursday. This is sequel to the resolution of the House of Representatives that he be invited to address that House on the security situation. The President's address is not unconnected with the House of Representatives motion. Meanwhile, this indication was given by Loretta Onoche, the Senior Special Assistant on social media. Meanwhile, the spokesman for the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, says the House distanced itself from the call to remove the President by a press release. Honorable Kalu says that the opinion of a member who he expressed it through the press release does not represent the voice of the National Assembly. Some journalists published that report as if it was the voice of the entire House. He says that only last week, the Speaker had warned the media to desist from ascribing to the House the opinion of single members. He said that the voice of the person who issued the press release does not even ring a bell within the minority caucus, not to talk of the majority of the general position. And he emphasized that the House of Representatives and the President are on the same page. There are the concerns expressed about 2 ad hoc staff of INEC that were missing at Zamfara is now put to rest. The 2 of them had returned after they lost their way and couldn't retrace their steps. The Director of Voter Education and Publicity, Nick Dazan, has praised the initiative of the REC of Zamfara as well as the Administrative Secretary and security agencies who helped in securing the return of the officers. Meanwhile, in Lagos, the Nigeria Railways says that it has commenced passenger train service between Lagos, Abeokuta, and Ibadan. The regional district manager, Jerry Oche, says that there are going to be 3 categories of train services: the economy, the business class, and the first class. The journey is supposed to last 2 hours, similar to what you have in the Kaduna-Abuja Expressway.
So, Bayo,
yes.
I mean, is there any controversy on the front pages of the papers that we read?
There's no controversy except that there is a district head of Zabarmari who has now thrown light upon about what happened. And he revealed that the Zabarmari has been attacked twice by the insurgents. First 6 years ago, and the second one 2 years ago. And this last one that happened on 28 November actually happened on that day, 28 November, there was going to be a local government election.
There was a local
Yes, there was going to be a local government election.
Yeah.
So the farmers went and slept on their farm with the hope of reaping their rice.
Yes.
But unfortunately, while they were there on the Saturday morning, the criminal terrorists came and abducted them at gunpoint and took them to a building. That was where the slaughtering took place.
There's different, versions of
but
what
this
happened.
is the version of the district head.
Yes, because I arrived in
man
Maiduguri
who
on
was
that
there.
day.
Okay.
I arrived in Maiduguri on the day it happened.
So
and,
he confirmed
yes.
that 43 were the initial places that were killed. And the governor was there on Sunday, they were buried. But they resorted to calling the telephones of those who were there. Those who responded, there was indication that they were alive. Those who didn't respond, there was indication that probably they were dead. So they went around and picked 34 more bodies. In all, they had 78. But he has appealed to the federal government that they have invested so much in the rice farm, and there's a lot of rice to be harvested. So they want adequate security to be provided for Zabambari. He said in the past, on the 2 occasions, people did not even run away from Zabambari. They went to Maiduguri and still came back. And as far as they are concerned, they have always managed themselves in that place, and their livelihood is on the rise.
And
they have
most
people
of them
from
are from other
Kebbi,
parts of the country.
yes, Kebbi,
Sokoto,
Zamfara, Sokoto,
Jigawa.
and Kanuri and Shua, who are inhabitants of that swampy area. And it's a very rich area that produces a lot of rice.
And their rice is so rich.
Yes.
Very nice, sweet and rich, yes.
Yeah, that's what you have been eating during your holidays.
But I don't think it will dampen their spirits.
No, but from what
resilient people, they will still go back and do what
the
they
village has said,
yes.
he said that as far as they are concerned, they are determined to continue with their farming. They are only requesting for adequate protection for security to help them.
Fine. One of the issues arising from all of this, obviously, would be, yes, where you have abundant labor, the practices, of course, will be labor intensive. But suppose you had mechanized inputs into the harvesting. So you have to just get your harvesters.
Combined harvester, yeah.
Combined harvesters, and they take it out. I mean, what 100 persons can do, I mean, a combined harvester can take that in a couple of hours. But, I mean, that's a story for another day. Because people are then going to ask themselves, okay, we don't have access to do this job now. How do we then survive? Then you expand the fields. That's what it means. You expand the fields. It's unfortunate that this incident took place. President Buhari, of course, has indicated that he will be addressing the joint session of the National Assembly on Thursday. And I'm sure Nigerians will be looking forward to that address, particularly with regard to insecurity.
Okay,
I think also too that the Borno State government should also think about supporting the farmers by getting for them combined harvesters, because the tradition they have there is that they do the harvesting by cooperation.
Yes.
If I have my rice is ripe, people will come volunteer to come and help me.
Like
so it has to be
days.
mass labor product. But when they have combined harvesters and millers, it makes the process a lot more easier.
A lot easier. You know, it's not just in that state, in several other parts of the country, where the labor input is still very high. So what then do you do? I've been hearing about tractors and tractors. Can we not have combined harvesters? Can we not also have, planters? Because there are machines for doing that. Yes. Some of the video clips that you see, they say this is planting season. People are still holding grains by the hands, and then they will take and throw the thing down, and then use your leg to use the sand to cover it. You go, that's pretty. That's part of what we did when we were studying our Greek science. I mean, you construct a ridge, and then you are saying you are planting at alternate angles and so on and so forth. But there are machines that handle that for you and far more productive. Okay.
Yes, we've sort of run out of time. We can't take the editorial. Bio, thank you for coming on. Good
Thank you
morning,
to
Nigeria.
you. Welcome back.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right. So, Bayo, we'll see you again tomorrow.
So we'll take a break now. When we return, our conversation will begin.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Nigerian youths are about the greatest assets the country has at the moment. It is therefore not surprising that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is strategically responding to the yearnings of the youth through multiple projects and programs. Youth entrepreneurship support, yes, by Bank of Industry, the Youth Investment Fund by the CBN, and several other conditional cash transfer programs. Recruitment of 774,000 social workers, majority of whom are youths, and so many other projects that are beneficial to youths directly or indirectly. If the administration can do all this, definitely with a degree of patience and time, it can achieve more. Nigerian youths must come together to say no to terrorism, no to vandalism, and no to all disruptive tendencies. Hashtag Youth for Greater Nigeria. Pacifying the youths, unifying the nation.
Do you know that 35% of every girl child and women are raped on daily basis? Some are killed in the process, some take their lives in shame, others remain emotionally dead for life. It is sad. This culture is not ours, definitely not African. How did we allow bad culture to infiltrate and take over? Even if you lack fear for the law, what of fear of God? And you, why do you cover up rape acts when it happens? Remember, a problem shared is a problem half solved. Never cover any rape act because a rapist is a murderer. It could be you or your loved ones next. Women must be treated like the prize gem they are. Say no to rape.
Always remember, this man I can be my creative design. Really like it, but you deserve a break. Even in the hustle and bustle of the day, you can indulge in a cup of 3-in-1 Cadbury Hot Chocolate. Cadbury Hot Chocolate. Indulge. You deserve a break.
You're welcome back. Now, the hike in airfares has become a source of concern to air travelers in recent times, despite the challenges of COVID-19 pandemic. Correspondent Emmanuel Anyimiro put together this report as a prompt for our discussion.
Forecast by the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, shows estimated possible COVID-19 impact on world scheduled passenger traffic compared to baseline originally planned for the year 2020. Starting from January to December 2020, many countries of the world have experienced different levels of decline in aviation services, such as hotels and tourism, trade and economy, leading to losses for international and domestic airlines. The story is not different in Nigeria, but the good news is that the industry is gradually picking up against all odds. So many assets in the industry have been idle in the last 6 months, leading to the laying off of staff. Experts says there is hope of recovery. COVID-19 palliatives for Nigeria Airlines to cushion the effect of the pandemic is being worked on, while the industry is struggling to come out of the fallout of COVID-19 challenges. Increases in airfares have surfaced. Nigeria is not the only country struggling to return to normal. Even the airlines that have received millions of dollars in palliatives abroad are yet to get out of the woods. Many thanks, Naimiro, for that backgrounder. We have guests with us here in the Abuja studios as well as from other parts of the country. Let's begin with the introduction of Susan Akboraye. She's President, National Association of Nigerian Air Travel Agencies. Ms. Akboraye, pleasure to have you with us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
Okay. And also joining us for this conversation, we have two other regular guests. First, let's begin with Captain Roland Iyaye, former Managing Director, Nigerian Airspace Management Agency, NAMA. Captain Iyaye, delighted to have you with us again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, Kingsley. Good morning, Joy.
Good morning, and also joining us via Zoom from Lagos is Chris Alegbe, Aviation Consultant and CEO, Chief Consultant, Balu Jane Consult. Thanks for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria.
All right. Let's begin. Let's begin first with the, shall we say, the marketing and trading end of the ticketing business, and that's why we are pleased to have Susan Akboraye here with us in the studios. In recent weeks, air travelers have seen a steady, if not steep, climb in airfares. One-way economy routes, economy tickets going for as high as 60,000, 70,000. What's happening in the market, and what are you selling, and what are your customers telling you?
Thank you very much. It's been very tough, actually, and like we know, if the fares are very high, it's actually difficult for us to sell, because by the time we let somebody know the fare, either they change their mind or they cancel the trip. So the sales are beginning to even drop from what we initially experienced when the airports were open. It's beginning to really drop because the fares are so just ridiculously too high. There are so many things that would be responsible for that. The most important...
I'm sorry, just before we say what is responsible, just give us an idea of the kind of fares that we are seeing now.
Oh, yes.
We know Abuja-Lagos route is fairly busy, but there are some remote routes that the fares are impossible. That's what I see.
Okay, yes, it's the load factor. That is why Abuja-Lagos is relatively, the prices are okay because of the traffic. Then for the other areas that don't have much traffic, those are the ones that the fares have gone off the roof. We're talking about almost 100% increase. And it still has to do with load factor, because no airline wants to fly empty. Because if you fly with just a 10 passenger and you fly with full flight, it's the same cost to the airlines.
Okay, now I'll still stay with you a bit. 100% increase in airfare, and the airlines are saying they lost more than 400 billion naira during the COVID-19 lockdown and all that. So why should it be 100% and so sudden, so swift? Just in less than 1 week, it's more than, I should say, 200%.
Yes.
How would the passengers cope? This is a period where people travel. They go home to celebrate Christmas.
Yeah, it's most unfortunate, but the business way we said is just business. It's most unfortunate, but like I mentioned, the load factor thing, normally when the demand is high and the load factor is low, airfares go up. And this period is what we call a high season, where there is high demand. And there are two types of travelers. We have the business travelers and the leisure travelers. The leisure travelers are the ones that, the prices means a lot to them. The cheaper, the better, but they're not flexible with dates. Then the business travelers are the ones that they are flexible with prices, but they're not flexible with date. Because, the boss is paying, the company is paying. So the airlines have to calculate their load factor in this period. The leisure travelers for we travel agency, because we know how it operates and it works, more so this COVID-19 period, that has even brought in more hardship for everybody. So we had, before now, advised all our clients for leisure travel to make their travel arrangements long before now. We're talking about 2 months before now, because we know they are not flexible with price. So that load factor has been taken off the aircraft, because the airline has to balance it. You cannot carry your aircraft full of cheap fares. You're going to be running at a loss. So at the period of high demand, they reduce the load factor for cheap fares and increase for high fares. So as it's getting closer, all the cheap fares are already gone, like a month, 2 months ago, by leisure travelers, because that's what the travel agents always advise, because we know how it works.
We have the culture of, buying tickets
Oh,
before
yes,
time.
well, that's why we are consultants. We advise our clients, if you must make your trip this period, do it ahead of time. So now, what is happening now, it's for the business travelers that has to go and meet up with an appointment, and they know that they're not flexible with day, they have to go at a particular time. So this is an opportunity for the airline to, okay, there is high demand. So we are not releasing the cheap fares anymore. Now we're going to do the high fares so that we can balance out at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Akparaye. We'll return to you in the course of the conversation. Let's go over to our Lagos Network studios, where we are introduce Captain Roland Iyaye. Captain Iyaye, is there some inevitability about a steep rise in airfares that we have been seeing in recent weeks?
Thank you very much, Kingsley. The answer is yes. I think I'll come back to what Susan said, but let's go back to the reality on the ground. Basically, in the last 3 years, the cost of fuel, jet fuel, has increased by 143%. Now, fuel takes on 40% of the direct operating cost of any airline in the world. That's the average percentage, 40%. So when you look at that element in itself, it's a huge factor when you talk about how airlines operate and how they can be profitable. So if you're not in control of 40% of your cost, it is a very difficult fact. It's very, very difficult to be able to control your fares. Now, on the other hand, airlines are exposed to a huge array of taxes, fees and charges. These elements constitute over another 22% of your cost as an airline. So when you put that together with the cost of fuel, and then add on to that the vagaries of the foreign exchange fluctuation, almost between 75 and 80% of every airline cost is in foreign currency. So if you're not earning in foreign currency, you're earning in the domestic naira, and the naira is being devalued more or less on a weekly basis. It becomes very difficult for planning purposes. So when you look at it from that angle, you've got 3 major factors that impact the performance of airlines: the fuel cost, the foreign exchange fluctuation, and of course, the fact that the fees and the charges that are imposed on airlines are increasing. So when you take all these 3 elements and you now, sort of add the issue of the pandemic to it, you would see a situation where the airlines cannot even think anything otherwise than increase fares at this point in time.
Factor in the operating cost of airlines. I've read in some accounts that airline operators sometimes have to source their forex outside of the, shall we say, official window. In other words, bureau de change and so on and so forth. Do airline operators have access to official CBN controlled forex allocation for their operating costs, including aircraft maintenance and all that?
For things that are long term, the answer is yes. But if you understand that the airline operation itself is a very technical thing, you tend to have breakdowns from time to time, and because of that, you would have need to order spares on a regular basis. Now, if you need to order spares to keep an aircraft in the air within 24 hours, that window is usually not there, because it takes forever for the process of getting foreign exchange through your banks to be able to pay for spares, and then be able to have the spares come in within 24 hours to keep the airplane flying. All these things are things that impact the performance of airlines generally. the window for first-tier foreign exchange access is limited for the airlines, and it's not timely. So when you put that together as well, it compounds the effect of how well the airlines can perform in this environment.
Airlines, when domestic flights resumed, the SGF gave an indication that there will be a hike in price of airfares and all that. And there was also an indication that maybe there might be an intervention from government, through the CBN or the stimulus package in the economic sustainability package, to the tune of maybe 2.3 trillion naira. What is happening to the aviation sector? Did they get any intervention? And if they did, then why the hike in price?
I'm not aware of any airline that has been provided any form of palliative by the federal government. The last count, we heard that 4 billion was approved for airlines. We are aware that this is not even sufficient for a charter company, not to talk about a scheduled carrier in terms of intervention. The National Assembly has intervened, and they've talked about the need to increase that to 50 billion. Even the 50 billion is not adequate for a major scheduled operator given the size of a fleet. So yes, the government has talked about palliatives, but no, airlines have not received any palliatives from the government.
Oh, okay, thank you very much, Captain Iyayi. We'll come back to you. Let's go very quickly now to Mr. Chris Aligbe, whom Muyala introduces with us via Zoom. Mr. Chris Aligbe, of course, a very well-known aviation consultant. Give us your own perspective as to what is happening now in terms of the steep rise in airfares in different parts of the country. Travelers are grumbling.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Many people may be surprised about the steep rise, but some of us are not. We anticipated that this would happen. That's why we kept pleading with government about giving palliatives to the airlines, not just the airlines, the entire industry. There were challenges before. But since the COVID-19 pandemic, things went very bad, not just in Nigeria, but globally. And the aviation industry suffered most for it. It's not just the airlines, the parastatals, whether you're talking about FAN, NCAA, or NAMAN, all of them came under the scourge of the pandemic. So the aviation industry went into a vicious circle. And we need to break this cycle. And this vicious cycle, the only point to break it is the airlines. Because, see, if you vastly improve any of the agencies, it will not impact on the industry immediately, the entire industry. But if you take out the airline and improve the state of the airlines, and they are operating very well, the entire industry will be impacted. But we pleaded, we need a mind shift in our country, a very serious mind shift, a paradigm shift. To adopt it today, we look at the airline industry as the private sector. We look at them as, they are doing their own private business, so nobody should bother. But we fail to take a total look of the impact of the industry, the trickle-down effect of a vibrant airline industry. We fail to look at it. We fail to look at what it contributes to the economy. We fail to look at the fact that we need the airline to re-energize the economy that has been pushed down by so many factors, including COVID-19 pandemic. And so we have not addressed things properly. We keep saying in safe haven, the prices will rise, the problem will rise more than we are looking at it. But the painful aspect of it is that those who are supposed to take these decisions, those in government, they don't pay for the airlines ticket themselves. It is government that pays. So they don't feel it. Whenever they want to travel, whether it's business class, whether it's economic class, the government pays. But the individuals, the Nigerians who are traveling, pay out of their pocket, and that's why the complaint is there. We know that the road infrastructure, we have challenges with the road infrastructure, even when the roads are good. Insecurity becomes a major problem. And so many people are traveling by air. This festive period, there'll be so much travel by air because people are avoiding the roads because of either they're not good or because of insecurity. So some of us, we know that the airfares will go up and the airlines have no choice, absolutely no choice. Government is asking them to keep their staff, not to fire the staff, in order to not to increase unemployment. Yeah, government is not coming in to assist them. There are some other sectors that government is assisting because they think it has an impact on the economy, but they have failed to evaluate thoroughly what the impact of airlines subsector within the aviation industry, how it impacts the entire economy. That's why I say we need a major mind shift. We need to stop looking at the airlines as just private businesses, and they should either die or survive. I don't believe that is what it should be. The entire aviation sector needs government assistance, like they are assisting other sectors. Whether they are government agencies, I know the challenges, agencies like FAN, NAMAN, and then I know the challenges they have, major challenges, particularly FAN, very major challenges. But the fact of the matter is that where to break the cycle is the airlines. Get the airlines flying, and then the revenues coming from the airlines to the agencies will increase. And then the Nigerian public will be able to try, the traveling public will be able to at least connect the destinations they want to go to. But if we don't do that, it's an urgent issue. If we don't do that, the fares will continue to rise. Captain Roland has talked about aviation fuel and some of the what impact it has to do with airline operations. But there are other so many factors affecting airlines operation, and the only way they can stay safe, they can stay flying for now, is by jacking up the fares. They will increase the fares. More increases will come, even in places where there's competition. Although I do not agree with some of the charges the airlines are putting in places there are no competition. There was a time, Asaba, if you wanted to go to Asaba, when there was only one airline flying, you need to pay 120,000 return ticket, which was very, very obnoxious. There are places now you want to go to Sokoto, you want to go to Jos, and some other places where you have only one or two airlines flying. But even Abuja, Lagos, and Port Harcourt, where you have many airlines flying into, the prices have gone up. And this will continue unless the government sits down. In fact, the finance ministry, the central bank, I know aviation ministry have talked about these things, but those who are controlling the funds, the policy of funding, they have to do with the finance ministry and the central bank. Unless they accept a major mind shift and sit down and talk with the airlines and talk again with the Ministry of Aviation, we will not get out of this quagmire. It will continue, and it will heighten as the days as we go through the festive season. The airlines need assistance. I'm not blaming the airline. Nobody should blame the airline. Government should come and look at it thoroughly the way they look at other sectors. That's my position on this.
Okay, Mr. Roland, Mr. Chris Aligbe, I'm still staying with you. You know, you said the increase will continue during the festive season. What if passengers can't afford it? Wouldn't there be a slump in passenger traffic at the airports?
Please let me get you clear.
You said the increase will continue during the festive season. What if people can't afford to travel? Wouldn't there be a slump in passenger traffic at the airports?
No. Why? Why would he? Passengers will travel. People will travel. This time is a travel period worldwide. It's not just in Nigeria. This is what we normally call, in the aviation sector, the high period in terms of air travel. And when you get to this point, normally, even under normal conditions, fares are relatively higher than when you have the low season period. This is a high season period. But all these challenges have been accentuated by what has been said with respect to what the airlines are suffering. Is it you want the airline, like I said, you want the airline not to fire staff, you want them to keep their staff. How do they pay them? Where will they get the funds? You are not coming in to assist them. You cannot eat your cake and have it. That's exactly what presently the government is doing. The government wants to eat its cake and at the same time want to have the cake. No, the government should consider it, look at it. It is the passengers that will suffer. Even when the passengers, will have a lot of passengers traveling, the passengers will suffer. And once the passengers are suffering, when the personal economy suffers, the general economy suffers. And then what you have, passengers will begin another spate of criticism of government. I think we have so much on the neck of government. There are so many genuine problems that the government is facing. But government should not therefore allow some problems that the issues they can sort out to linger on and increase the spate of criticism that is going on the government. I sympathize, with those in place who are in government because they're facing so many challenges. But the fact of the matter is that within the challenges, they must think out of the box. Apart from thinking out of the box, they look at every sector by sector per sector, and then determine what should be done with the sector. They have not addressed properly the role of the aviation industry and the airline subsector within the economy that has gone down. They must sit down. The governor of Central Bank, the Minister of Finance, Minister of Aviation, this is the time to call that kind of a conference, bringing all stakeholders together and say, what do we do to solve this problem?
So, Chris Olibwe, thank you very much. I want to return quickly to Captain Roland Iyayu. Captain Roland Iyayu, I mean, listening to all three of you, Susan Akborai here, who is a travel agency operator, yourself, of course, you're in the business, and Chris Olibwe, who is also in the business. Is it necessarily the case now that the consumer, namely the air traveler, is at the mercy of the airline operators? Apparently, beyond just looking at demand and supply, airlines can fix whatever fares, it's take it or leave it. Do consumers not have a right to not to have some buffer in all of this?
Well, indeed, like you said, the issue is a matter of demand and supply. The truth is, the airlines cannot fix fares arbitrarily. Let's be clear about that. It's a double-edged sword. I mean, if the airlines increase the fares, the demand will fall. I mean, if the demand falls, at which point do you break even? So it's also a very precarious exercise for the airlines in terms of having to fix fares. But the thing is, the airlines must set their fares at a point where they can achieve break even. Susan earlier had alluded to the issue of yield management. Airlines have to look, they need to balance this out in such a way that they can have fares fixed, set in such a way that, it will still be attractive to the consumer. So the issue is not necessarily to just do it arbitrarily to the point where it will seem like the consumer has no say in this matter. No, it does. The consumer has a major say in what the airlines do. However, the airlines also cannot do it. I mean, they can't do what they have to without taking cognizance of the environment in which they operate. And like Mr. Ligba said, it is important that the government understands the major contribution of aviation to the economy. Aviation is a major access to all the markets we're talking about. It's the access to foreign direct investments in the country. So I think it's important to place a major emphasis on how to make sure that the industry is kept buoyant and afloat. I mean, we have major countries that have thrown billions, as it were, into the aviation sector. I'll give an example of Singapore. Singapore Airlines is government-owned, but government has placed $2 billion into that airline. I mean, the same thing in America. The American government provided almost about $13 billion as we speak to the airlines in America. All airlines in America are privately owned. They're not owned by government. Government in America has never owned airlines. So the point is, the airline industry cannot be looked at as elitist, as, I mean, it's been wrongly placed in some certain quarters. I think it's important to help the industry to come back to where it should be for the benefit of a country. It's for the common good of the country, because if you don't have market access, if people don't move around, you cannot trade. If trade is not there, your economy cannot grow. So all these things are inextricably linked. So I think it's important to understand the importance of all of this, the relationships in making sure that the economy can indeed grow. So that the idea that the industry is elitist should be thrown out the door completely. And we should have people who understand the importance of it. Yes, back to your question, the airline industry cannot do this without taking consideration for the consumer. Indeed, that's a major consideration, because it's very difficult to start doing things without considering what the consumers will do. If you set your fares too high, you fly empty. No airline wants to fly empty. So it's unfortunate. So I think it's important that the government should very quickly, urgently, look at all the needs of this industry and do something about it.
I was just wondering, Captain Iyaye, as you were explaining, and also, Jumai, listening to Chris Aligbe a while ago, Chris Aligbe calls for a paradigm shift in the appreciation of the aviation industry, of which the airline is a subsector. It says, and you were also talking a moment ago about saying, look, don't look at it as an elitist means of travel. It has a great deal of interconnectivity as well as knock-on effects on the economy. Have we sometimes, even in the thinking, considered the fact that our population growth in recent decades has been also a factor that we haven't probably taken a great deal of consideration about in the airline industry or even in the aviation industry. Yes, we've been expanding and reconstructing our terminal buildings, departure and arrival lounges, and so on and so forth. But I mean, for anyone who's been flying for, let's say, the past 4 decades or more, you can see the increasing pressure whenever you get to the airports. First, even in terms of capital assets, how many aircraft do we have in our skies at any point in time? Is this something that we also haven't taken consideration of? Say in this high season, people have to travel, it's inevitable, and if they have to travel, how then do you carry them or convey them to their destinations? Captain Iyaye.
Well, I mean, yes, people have to travel. It's important that the industry is seen vis-a-vis the population. Again, you know, when you look at the industry, take it from a standpoint that our roads, as Mr. Aligbe said earlier, are grossly inadequate in terms of the networks. So the challenge is to reduce the traffic on the road. Your best access to other destinations is the air. Now, if the air infrastructure is adequate, which we have to a large extent in the country, we have about 26 airports in the country. Now, bar maybe about 8 states, every state in the country has an airfield or an airport. So I think if the consideration is put and made important that the aviation sector has a major role to play, it will be very key for the government then to now put everything in place to ensure that this particular industry survives. Now, the number of passengers that we would see, except of course the pandemic has sort of depressed demand. I mean, a lot of people are very wary of traveling because they're not sure about the pandemic at this point in time. Bar that, typically we get into the festive season, the demand usually becomes very high. A lot of people want to travel they want to travel home, but they don't want to do it by road because they don't find it convenient. Again, with the insecurity level in the country, it becomes even more important that, you know, air transport is taken very, very seriously. But the thing is, it's like I said, it's a very precarious balance at this point. Airlines have to find a way to balance their fares, in setting their fares vis-a-vis the demand. In terms of capacity, not every airline in the country today has been able to recover all its available capacity because of the pandemic. A couple of airlines are getting to having to get some aircraft back from maintenance, but not all airlines are able to put 100% of their assets in the air. Right now, maybe we're about between 40 and 60% of the capacity in the industry, domestic market that is, are flying. Now, to be able to make that change, we'll be talking about humongous capital assets, capital resources being thrown in to recover the idle assets. And ideally, this is a time where those capacities will be used to move people around the entire country for the festive season. Don't be surprised. We would have a situation over the next couple of weeks where there will be delays simply because there will be inadequate capacity, and airlines will want to see that they can actually service most of the airfields. So there will be delays in most cases going to some of these airfields, and that's because of the capacity. Assuming the government had provided the palliative in a timely manner to most of the airlines, it would have been very, very easy to recover most of the aircraft and put them back to use, particularly now that the demand is going to be very high.
Wow, that's quite, enlightening for people to know what is actually happening out there. Ayigbe said the triple effect of the air business in the economy is very, very immense, and the impact is sort of underestimated. In other countries of the world, they pay so much money and they put into the economy. In Nigeria, we don't really feel it. It is the passenger that suffers. What do we do about that? Hello, can you hear us? Okay, let's come back to the studio now. Let's come back to you, Ma. Passengers are complaining. Passengers are crying. Passengers are saying we want to go home but can't go because of the high cost. So how can we, have the culture of booking, for tickets on time? If we have the money, how can we do that? How can people be enlightened, raise awareness on people to say, okay, you can just go book your ticket for 2 months ahead, and then in 2 months you fly. We like traveling. I go buy the ticket today, I travel tomorrow.
Yes, that's unfortunately, it's a culture that we are yet to develop in Nigeria. Unlike some other parts of the world that they plan their trips and they clear their schedules, we are more of on-the-spot people, and that's why things like this really affect us. I quite agree that the airlines are going through a lot, but our role, speaking from a travel agent's perspective, Captain Yayi is right. The aviation industry travel is well underrated. The government, I agree totally, the government really, really needs to look into it. But I also want to add, as the government is looking into it, there's no amount, whatever it is the government does for the aviation sector, the transport sector, it's just one. We're still going to have this issue. You said something very interesting. The population is growing. And except Nigeria wants to do what China did, 1 child per family. As long as that is not being done, the population is growing. Our population, as at a few days ago when I checked, we are the number 6th largest country in the world. And the population is growing. We might eventually come into the number 3 largest, competing with China and India. So if the government pumps in everything into aviation, which I want, aviation sector, I want that to happen. But speaking from a travel agent perspective, I would rather prefer, as investment is being made to aviation, because it has to go about movement, they should not neglect other sector in transport. Because if we have options, you see, hiking fares is all about competition. Once there is no competition, a businessman will take advantage. And you cannot fault the businessman at that time. It's taking advantage of the fact that there is no competition. So, yes, I want the government to look into aviation.
That's why you have antitrust laws.
Yes.
Anti-competition laws.
Oh, yes. We want them to look into aviation. While they are doing that, let them also develop other sectors of transport. It's if aviation is where we grow aviation to the level of the developed countries, for example, our aviation grows to that level, we're still going to have that challenge if it's only aviation that has developed. You know, we need to give options. Oh, if I try to go by air and the fare is too much, I should be able to take train. I should be able to take train to my village. Okay, if I cannot do trade, what else do I have? Am I in a riverine area? Those in Port Harcourt can take a boat to Cross River State. I mean, those in Bayelsa can take boats to Lagos State. They connect all the riverine area. So if that is happening, if any airline decides to do 120,000 from Port Harcourt to Lagos, it might just be forced to bring it down to 50,000 because people have the options of going by sea. So it's very important, like Captain has said, for the federal government to seriously pump in, like yesterday, as a matter of fact, into aviation. But I will speak from the perspective of a travel agent because I sell all modes of transport. I do not only sell air tickets. I sell all modes of transport. But here in Nigeria, we are left with only air tickets to sell because those are the options that we have available. But in other countries, I have clients in the US, organizations in the US. When I give them a quote for air ticket and they're like, that's too high, and I'll give them an option for train, and they might go for it and they still achieve the same thing. So it's invariably, like you said, like yesterday, big money needs to be pumped into it. I agree. You also said something, our population is growing. So if we focus only on aviation, which is good, that is what we have that is working at the moment. So that is why I would join my voice with Captain Yayi that they need to fund education because that's the only, aviation. That's the only option we have now. As that is being done, they should have a plan B in looking into other sector because if not, they've pumped in $2.3 million dollars into aviation today. What happens in the next 5 years when Nigeria becomes almost 1 billion people? We are getting close to...
No, that's an exaggeration.
So I'm just, it is an exaggeration, but it can happen.
We might not be alive when we get to that stage, actually.
Incidentally, we discussed options in population management in Nigeria just last Friday on Good Morning Nigeria. Let's return to Mr. Chris Aligbe, who is still with us via Zoom. Mr. Chris Aligbe, well, listening to Susan Akoraye, you could see the elaborate manner. She's also talked about intermodality or alternatives to air travel. Use the train, go by roads or, use the boat. But for now, our concern is aviation because we know that the other modes are not fully developed. When it is said that support the aviation industry, well, sometimes, we have an issue with some persons would say throwing money at problems. Is it a question of handouts to each of the airlines and then you give to some, the other will say, no, the money you gave to Susan is bigger than the one you gave to Captain Iyayi. And then Mr. Chris Aligbe would then say, what about my own business? We have the same balance sheet as it were. Will it be a question of handouts or a question of, say, forbearance on some of the charges, taxes, and levies that airlines have to pay? Because, again, that's also an important cost center for the airlines. But assuming that is the option, how then do you balance that with the view you earlier expressed that some of the support agencies and regulators or service providers, including FAN, for instance, and NTA, themselves are struggling to stay afloat?
And if I get you clearly, you want the agencies, some of the agencies to reduce the charges on the airlines. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, that's a forbearance. If they are charged, for instance, was say 100 naira, the government could say, all right, as part of our support for the airline industry, we're going to slash that by 50%, so it now becomes, say, 50 naira. So the government picks up the bill because at the end of the day, the money will come into the coffers of government. Government will say there's forbearance for the airlines.
You see, the issue is you want the agencies to reduce their charges. The agencies need to exist. If they don't exist themselves, then the airlines will not have any services provided for them. So like I said before, Either government is deciding to fully fund the agencies. FAN has how many airports? 22 airports to manage. Before, he has only about 2 airports yielding all the revenues that he's using to manage. Others are not contributing anything. And you want them to reduce the charges on the airlines. So how will they run? Government is not prepared to provide funds for these places to be run. So it's a question of saying, look, you cannot rob Peter to pay Paul. Do what you should do with the airlines. The airlines before now, yes, they were complaining about some certain charges, but they were not complaining seriously about the charges from the agencies. They were complaining about multiple taxes from government. It's the multiple taxes that government should take out. That's government revenue. You're talking about this. Government, the agencies should reduce their charges. The federal government is taking 25% of revenue from FAN as part of the contribution, to the shareable revenue. They are planning to increase it to 40%. We've been telling government, don't touch any revenue that FAN is getting because it doesn't have enough to run the airports. But government wants to eat its cake and at the same time have it. You cannot be taking this money, 25%, 40% from revenue that is not enough. Then you want them, you're suggesting they reduce their charges. So how will they run? And tomorrow we will say our airports, some of the worst in the world, we begin to blame the airports state on the incompetence of maybe FAN or NCA or NAMA. Those guys are not incompetent. The system makes them incompetent. Give them what they require to run the airport properly. It's not a question of they reducing their charges. Government should take off the taxes that the airlines are paying. The airlines are facing multiple taxation. That's not what it should be. The airlines are not complaining about charges. The airports must charge whatever fees they have to charge. And most of these charges that the agencies are charging come from the airlines. There are passengers that are paying it. The 5% surcharge is not being paid by the airlines. The passengers pay. The airlines collect it, and the are not remitting it. That's the problem. The airlines are not complaining, and they can't complain because the money is not coming from them. It is the taxes that government have loaded on the airline that they should remove, that the issue of multiple taxation, address it. But more importantly, like I have said, the government should look at the airlines, take a second look. They must create a forex window. Like Roland said, for long-term forex, yes, it's there. But the aviation industry saw that almost every day they need forex. When you hear AOG, airline on ground, aircraft on ground, aircraft are not supposed to be on ground. Something just happens down. Their aircraft cannot fly unless the spares come in. And even though they've removed custom duties, thanks to the aviation ministry and the aviation minister, but the forex to import this, they cannot get, so they resort to black market. How will they survive? That's the issue. That's what I'm saying. That's why, yeah, sometimes you have other areas that you blame airlines, but on this issue, the airlines don't have the blames. The airlines are fighting for survival. Just like the aviation sectors, the parastatals are fighting for survival. That's why a holistic look should be taken at this airline, and unless the CBN, Federal Ministry of Finance, Aviation Ministry, the airlines and stakeholders sit together to say this is the way to go, and government sincerely implement that way to go. Don't get out of this quagmire. I've said it, and I hear about 6 million.
Okay, Mr. Chris Aligbe, thank you very much. We're running out of time. Let me now link up with Captain Roland Iyaye. How can we soften the impact, of COVID-19 on the aviation sector? In a brief statement, your closing remarks.
Well, I mean, I think essentially we're saying what the government needs to do for the industry to at least cushion the effect of all the pressures, as it were, on the operators. I think importantly, going by what Chris has said, there's a need to very quickly review government policies vis-a-vis how it impacts the industry. There's also a need for government to provide, enough palliatives, enough funding, to cushion the effect of a pandemic on all the operations for the various airlines in the country, particularly in the last 12 months. I also believe that in order for the government to get the most benefits, as it were, out of aviation, the idea of having the agencies contribute to the TSA, like Chris Oligbe said, 25%, is actually an illegal act because the government is a signatory to the ICAO Convention. And being a signatory, the convention says that every earning from aviation must be reintroduced back into aviation. But that's not what happens in Nigeria. So by taking some money out of FAN, you're actually making sure that the facilitation at the airports is impaired because the monies from FAN should go back into developing the airports and the infrastructure. So again, government should look at how it relates with the industry, vis-a-vis the conventions it's signed as a signatory, vis-a-vis the policies it has in operation, and then of course, how to manage the overall impact of the pandemic by providing some sort of capital injection into the industry. I'll take what Kingsley said. Part of what the government needs to do is not necessarily to dole out cash, not in all instances. Some of it is required. Again, there's need for forbearance. In terms of taxes, there's a need to reduce, in some cases eliminate some elements of the taxes that are imposed on airlines. Yes, there are charges by the agencies. These are statutory charges that airlines will normally pay. There's no problem with that. But there's a multiplicity of several taxes that are imposed on airlines simply because the government has seen it as a cash cow and they're believing that they can make more money from that. Indeed, by doing that, you are actually killing other areas of the economy, which I believe there's a need to understand the ripple effects of all of these policy issues before we move forward.
Okay, thank you so much, Captain Roland. Yeah, Susan, your final thoughts briefly.
Okay. I will also...
Along with the final thoughts, Susan, just respond to this as well.
Yes.
Agencies such as yours are happy when fares go up because your commissions also increase.
Your final thoughts. Briefly.
Oh no, oh my God, I wish, I wish it was actually true, sincerely, because, we are here to talk about aviation. Airlines are our partners. I'm not going to say some certain things, but I wish it was actually true. But yes, our commission goes up, but we don't even make the sales to end the commission. For instance, if I'm supposed to sell, 10 to make commission, and at the end of the day, I'm just selling 2. So I want to lend my voice. Sincerely, the government needs to go back to the books. Sincerely. They need to do a lot of restructuring. They need to go back to the policies and change some things, especially in the aspect of taxation. That is what is killing a lot of us, even we in the private, the downstream sector. Can you imagine just coming out of this pandemic and Federal Inland Revenue are just knocking everybody's door and harassing them? So they seriously need to look at these charges. Statutory one, I agree, but there are some that can be waived off, and those ones should be waived off. And definitely major injection into the system.
Juma and Susan, I know that we are pressed for time because we have a second topic. Captain Roland Iyai is always with us. One issue that we don't have enough time to touch on today will be to also interrogate the extent of the capitalization of the airlines themselves. Captain Iyai, I recall that we had referenced this sometime in the past, can we continue to operate the current model of ownership and management of airlines as we have them in Nigeria? I mean, you mentioned a while ago, airlines in the U.S. privately owned, but what is the mode of ownership? You have a distinct mode of separation of ownership and control, and ownership is widely dispersed, and therefore capitalization is also very high. So on that note, Jumai, we would like to thank all our three guests who've been with us this morning. From our Lagos Network Center, we're joined by Captain Roland Iyaye, former Managing Director of NAMA, that's Nigerian Airspace Management Agency. Always a delight having you on Good Morning Nigeria. We also had Chris Alibwe. Chris Alibwe, of course, is an aviation consultant, and many years ago, of course, he was a public affairs manager for Nigeria Airways. That's Chris Alibwe with us via Zoom. We've already checked him off. And then here with us in the studio, Susan Akporaye, who is, of course, the chairperson of the president, rather, of the National Association of Nigerian Air Travel Agencies. Delight having you with us on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Thank you so much, Jumai.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. It's Good Morning Nigeria still, and we're live on NTA's network service, broadcasting from our Abuja headquarters studios. We'll take a short break. Now, when we return, we'll be talking elections in Ghana.
The counsel of our fathers.
I believe we have fought one civil war too many in this country. So those who experience it will run away from it.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
My name is Nando Jamda
Mohammed. Stevita. Hussein Musa. Goduna Joel Finji. Said Musa John.
I'm a carpenter. I've been doing this for more than 8 years now.
And I said that plantain. Nakai Kimami Shekara Uku.
I've been selling my tomatoes for about 10 years now, and I do it for a better Nigeria.
And I do it for a better Nigeria.
Ina wannan sana'an lemu ne domin Najeriya ta ci gaba. Ina sa domin Najeriya ta kyau. And you can see how we are doing our small little work to make Nigeria great.
As you can see, I'm a technician and I'm doing it to help myself and to help my generation.
Ina zaune ne a Plateau na business. Kuma ina yin wannan domin ci gaban ƙasar Najeriya.
For a better Nigeria. This message is from the National Orientation Agency.
Dialogue, empathy, love, and unity. These are vital components of nation building.
For all to be well, we appeal that we should refrain from volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language.
Let's build and not destroy.
Una don't hear say them they rape about 35% of them girl picking, and even them women safe. Some of them, they even die in the process. Emotional trauma, uncle, they make some of them be like say they not did this one again, they don't go, but they live like ghosts. Some of them, shame don't kuku make them go kill themselves. It no good though. This no be our culture. It no fit be the African way. Why we can't allow this kind of yet enjoy body with us so they loud where. If you know they fear law where man put, you know they fear Baba God there. You self, you where they cover mouth so you see mini one they happen. You know what here when the Oyibo talk say problem where they bring come out. They solve and sharply. Remember, person where feel rape. If it's a key person, oh, if it be you, if it be your pikin, if it be person them where you love well. So make we learn to carry women then, like diamond where we be. No grief for rape, oh.
Welcome back. Yesterday, Ghana conducted its general election for both presidential and parliamentary polls.
Now, 12 candidates, including 3 females, participated in the presidential elections, described as peaceful by observers.
However, the election was titled Battle of Familiar Rivals, perhaps because the 2 major contenders slugged it out in the 2016 presidential election.
Well, joining us in the studios now to discuss the elections, we'd like to welcome Ambassador Dauda Donladi, of course, is Nigeria's former envoy to Pakistan, is very familiar with those issues. Your Excellency, pleasure to have you with us. On
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians.
Okay. And then also joining us via Zoom from Ghana, that's our correspondent, Musbau Dan Wahab. Musbau, pleasure to have you with us on the program this morning.
It's my pleasure, Kingsley. Good morning.
All right. So, Musbau, what is the situation report from across the country where the elections took place yesterday?
The situation report is that electorate or Ghanaians generally are waiting for the results of the silent decision they've taken yesterday into the ballot boxes, and they are expecting the Electoral Commission to give those decisions voice by announcing the results anytime from now. The attention shifted from the polling stations now to collation centers across the 16 regions of the country. The Electoral Commission has the right by law to declare the results, but the chairperson of the commission warned that politicians and media should refrain from declaring results before the final collation. But that warning is not being heeded, as a local radio, when you listen to them, you hear reporters giving out figures from each of the polling units that they have covered, declaring results at that level. But ultimately, they are waiting anxiously for the Electoral Commission to declare the results, and that commission already promised to release the results in 24 hours after the election. So that is what they're waiting for as we speak. There has not been any record of major violence, but the police here confirmed that 2 persons sustained injuries from gunshots, and we had a case whereby 2 officials of the Electoral Commission were arrested for tampering with ballot papers, and the rights agencies are taking that up as we speak. But largely, it's been peaceful across Ghana and Accra, where I am specifically.
Okay, Ghana is seen as one of the most democratic in West Africa, and this election, they say, is a battle of 2 rivals, although we have 12 contestants, but the stakes are high. How high is it?
Yeah, the tension might be high, but already the Ghanaians are already seeing signals of where the pendulum will swing as they are putting figures together from unit level. You talked about the 3 females in 3 female contestants in this election, but one of them, who is the widow of former President Jerry Rawlings, actually had to step down after the demise of her husband. She could not move all out to canvass for votes anymore. So it looks like she had practically pulled out of a race. We have just 2 more of them still in the race, and we are hoping to see what the result will look like. Yes, it's according to experts, it's a contest between 2 this party that have been very dominant over the years, the new Patriotic Party, NPP, that of Nana Akufo, and then National Democratic Congress, NDC, where on the platform where the former president, Mahama, is contesting.
Well, Musbau, thanks a lot for the update in terms of the number of women who are seeking the presidential ticket. But did that in any way affect the nature or configuration of the ballot paper? Did Nana Rawlings formally withdraw from the race, or she just, allowed it to go without much energy or tailwind behind her?
Yeah, that's what's not really reflected on the ballot boxes. Her name is still on the ballot paper. She just had to withdraw practically because she could not mobilize for support. She could not go out anymore. probably demoralized, apparently, because of that demise of her husband, who was expected to even join her in that campaign to ensure that they get people's support across the country. But as we speak, she could not even come out for campaigns towards the end, the last days of campaigns. And trust me, where she belongs to, that's Ododo Diodio constituency. It's a very large area, and other parts constituency in our region where one of her daughters is also a parliamentarian still in this race. So she just pulled out naturally, but that did not reflect on the ballot paper.
Okay, Musbau, you know, this is a very unique election. You know, most of the election took place on Twitter, social media, radio, television. But towards the end of the campaign, you know, they just threw caution to the wind. And we are looking at a second wave of COVID-19. What are they feeling there?
Trust me, Jumai, Ghana has been very, very consistent when it comes to the fight against COVID-19 spread. You see, right from the airports, you cannot even enter this country without a COVID-19 test. No matter where you're coming from, no matter the result you're bringing in. I did results on the 78 hours in Nigeria. When I got here, I was made to go through another process of COVID-19 test, and they have been very organized in that regard. As you're entering the country, on your arrival, they take your sample after payments. You see the organized setting, and before you get to the main hall, your results is already waiting for you. So they are trying to guide against importation of COVID-19 infection in the country. And coming to the polling units, you must wear your face mask to come near the polling unit, and then you wash your hands, sanitize it before coming close to the officials. And in some areas, though, they seem to be overwhelmed because the distancing protocol was at some points jettisoned, set aside when people were overwhelmed, getting crowded at some points. But then, likely, they have complied likely with these protocols. And ECOWAS, who is monitoring this election with observers, long-term and short-term observers, they've compared notes with other observers, international and local, and the statistics coming in is showing up to 90 to 95% of compliance with COVID-19 protocols.
All right, Musbah, just before we come to the studios and still have you, I would like you to just tell us one or two things about the process. Why the choice of a weekday for the election? I mean, we know we have our own national experience. It has to be on the weekend. If you put an election on a Monday, I'm sure you'll hear the voices of opposition against such a choice. So why have an election on a Monday, assuming you have an idea why they chose that? And was there any lockdown, restriction on movement and mobilization of security personnel, a show of force and saturation of the place?
Ghana seems to be very obsessed with the number 7. In recent times, remember last year, it was also on 7th of December. So they seem to have this connection with 7. And the inauguration too is scheduled for January 7. So no matter the day on which that 7 falls, they have to hold election. Coming to the lockdown issue, there's no any lockdown in Ghana. No, normally, originally, there's no any holiday for election. You have to participate in the election and go about your business. But this year, coincidentally, the Farmers' Day is a statutory holiday. I was supposed to be on Friday last week, was shifted to today by the president to allow people to participate in this election. But after that, you can still go about your normal business, and you go across the street, no harassment. There's not even any single blockage of the streets. You can go, move about your business, vote, go home. But again, you see this level of patriotism from Ghanaians. Some of them will even come to the polling unit with seats from their homes, sit, participate, and then go back home peacefully after the election while they wait for the results.
Before I let you go, let me ask you something. You know, Jerry Rawlings has always been a permanent fixture in elections in Ghana since 1992, after the military rule. What is the feeling like without his physical presence there? How has it affected people going to vote?
Well, that seems to have been a thing of the past. Ghanaians really loved Jerry Rawlings and his family, but they seem to have pushed that behind now. They're moving on. They understand that's a call of nature. And Jerry Rawlings has come and he's played his role, and his place in the history will not be forgotten in a hurry, but they have moved on, participating, coming out all out to participate in this election. Jerry Rawlings' memory is not causing any setback at all.
All right, Musbah Donwahab, we're going to have to pause here. We still have a few issues to raise with you, and I'm sure you also have some more to share with us. Let's now come back to our studios and engage Ambassador Dauda Danladi. Ambassador Dauda Danladi, you listen to our correspondent. Of course, you're also quite familiar with the issues. The results are being processed, being collated, and hopefully they will get the announcement not too long from now. What are your thoughts on the process of the elections?
Well, let me start by observing that for the past 25 years, Ghana has been able and have demonstrated the capacity to conduct free and fair elections. However, Ghana appears to be stuck with two democratic parties, that is, the National Democratic Party, headed by the former president, John Dramani Mahama, and the new Patriot Party, headed by the present president, Nana Akufo. And I would quickly like to have to give a little bit of rundown of what really happened over the past few years in Ghana. In 2012, when the elections were conducted, John Mahama emerged the winner. He became the president, and he defeated the present president. And there was, because the election was so close, too close to call, there was an appeal, and it went to Supreme Court. And at the end of the day, it was resolved, and there was a smooth acceptance of the outcome of that election. Now, Ghana over the years has also developed very strong institutions. These institutions, from the Electoral Commission, which has earned a reputation of credibility and independence. It has been able to mediate as an umpire between the political parties, and that has resulted in the two political parties over the years to accept peacefully the outcome of elections. Going forward, again, Ghana has a very strong and active civil society that have an independent press. Actually, I think in this year, Ghana was ranked among the 4 sub-Saharan African countries for freedom and civil liberties. So they have contributed in the culture, the imbibement of the culture of dialogue and debates, whereby political parties focuses on issues that affect the common man. They focuses on issues like the economic, the stability of the economy, reforms in the financial sector, the control of corruption, the fight against corruption. As you know, Transparency International, about 2 years ago, stated that Ghana loses about $3 billion to corruption. Now, if you look at the performance, Ghanaians have the opportunity to assess the performance of the two candidates, because it is the 3rd time that they are meeting. During Mahama's government, of the NDC, he was able to grow the economy to about almost cumulative to almost 15.3% GDP growth. The lowest was about 3%. And he was also able to embark on massive infrastructural development. But there was a snag why he lost the election in 2016, because in 2016 it was the president incumbent that won that election. He lost that election on the grounds that Ghanaians felt that there was overspending, that there was a hole in the budget to about $1.6 billion, and at the same time they are of the view that he did not put in place structures to deal and fight with corruption, even though his supporters were of the view that, look, the poor performance of the economy, especially in 2016, was as a result of the fact that there was fall in commodity prices of cocoa and gold and in the oil sector. But he lost that election, even though there was a rebound to about almost 3.4% of the GDP. He lost it to Mahama. He lost it to Akufo. Now, Akufo won that election, and he has also performed. Within the past 4 years, he launched an ambitious transformation program, the modernization of the agricultural sector, reform in the financial sector, to expand industrialization and in the manufacturing sector. He has created a conducive atmosphere, actually, business atmosphere. At one point, Ghana became the #1 destination for investors. Giants like Suzuki, Nissan, Volkswagen have all indicated interest to establish their plant in Ghana. Going forward again, he has been able to at least sign agreements with giant oil companies like the US Exxon and the Norwegian Aga Energy Company, whereby they will try to raise the production capacity of Ghana from 200 barrels per day to about 500 barrels per day by the year 2024. So I think, again, he has tried to revolutionize the issue of education. He launched a free education from primary to secondary school. So I think going forward, Ghanaians had the opportunity to assess the performance of these two individuals. And I think this 2020 election will be a litmus test for the resilience of the democratic institutions in Ghana to conduct a free and peaceful election. And so far, so good, I think, from the report we're getting, is that it is a credible, of course there are pockets of 1 or 2 incidences, but these are minor incidences where, of course, some people have received some gunshots in one of the regions.
But I thought there's a law that says if there's violence during election, it's a 10-year imprisonment.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm trying to say, that these are minor incidences. But it is a little more test, and I think at the end of the day, we'll have a credible elections in Ghana, and of course, the winner will emerge.
Okay, we've ruled out a lot of things that the incumbent has done, but youth unemployment, security concerns, and effect of COVID-19 pandemic on the economy has been on the front burner during the campaign. How do you think the incumbent has been able to address all this?
Well, I think if you look at the campaign slogans and the manifestations and the visions that both parties have, I think clearly gives the Ghanaians the choice to decide. For example, when he took over government, deficit budget was about 9.3% during Mahama's government. Now it has dropped to about almost 3.2%. Again, the unemployment rate that you're talking about is just around 4.3%. And I believe that Ghanaians, they have imbibed the culture of democratization, and they are wiser. They know the impact of COVID on the global economy, and I think they will appreciate that fact. But again, some Ghanaians on the streets, when you ask some Ghanaians on the street, they will say it is a choice between the crocodile and the alligator.
Or the devil and the big goose.
Yes. So we are hopeful. You see, the democratization wave that has swept Africa, even though there was this apprehension initially, but dozens of countries where elections have been conducted, from Togo to Malawi to Ethiopia to Niger, even though there was some resilience, there was some tendencies of some leaders to erode the third term, the term limit, but still progress has been made.
We have seen that in Cote d'Ivoire,
yes.
And we'll see how that goes. Ambassador Donlade, let's pause you in the meantime and return again to our correspondent, Musbao Danwahabi in Accra, Ghana. Musbao, right there, you're back on the screen on the right side. Did you see and buy in the course of the election?
That's a big question, Kingsley. From the experience, from the observation of all the places we've visited, I cannot prove any case of vote buying, but what looked like an inducement of voters was what I saw at a particular polling center station where a car was stationed with drinks stuck inside and biscuits, snacks. Voters were coming close to that car collecting drinks and biscuits, but then we cannot confirm that to be vote buying because it was actually after they might have participated in ballot in casting their vote. So we cannot substantiate any case of vote buying within Accra city where I monitored the election.
And still on the elections, what were the dominant issues for the electorate? They say, look, this is the reason why we'll vote this way.
All right. Before the election day, I spoke to some Ghanaians, and some are saying, "Oh, we need a change. We've seen what Nana Akufo-Addo can do. He has tried his best. We're not satisfied with what he's been able to do. We're going to look for a change." And the other side were saying that they have benefited personally from the government of Nana Akufo-Addo, and then they want him to continue. But then some people were feeling like before this election day was that they're going to have a change, probably to have a female who will become the first female president of Ghana in Nana, Jerry Rawlings. But that cannot be seen to be happening anytime now because of what I mentioned earlier. She could not go out to convince people of why they need to vote for him, not for her rather. But ultimately, the people are making decisions. But if you want to look back in 2016, Nana Akufo-Addo of the NPP used corruption as a campaign strategy against John Dramani Mahama, that the government of Mahama was corrupt. But the table seems to have changed now, and that is the same strategy that Dramani Mahama is using now to campaign against Nana Akufo-Addo, that this government too is likely corrupt and can do better than he has been able to do.
Well, we of course have heard about the Electoral Commission of Ghana. That's the GEC. It's headed by Jean Mensah. What do you know about the reputation of the electoral umpire in Ghana? As Ambassador Donlade mentions here, look, it's independent and it's respected. But what do you hear as a reporter?
Okay, Jean Mensah, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, has been speaking before this election day, and she has been assuring Ghanaians that the commission remains very independent of government, that the commission is ready to deliver a very credible election. And that's part of why she said, for you not to have any doubt in this result, we'll make sure, we'll work very hard to make sure that we release the results 24 hours after the election. And they have been promising to do that. The ECOWAS Election Observation Mission met with her yesterday, and she still reiterated that the commitment to deliver a very credible and acceptable result to Ghanaians.
Okay, thank you, Musbao. Back in the studio, Ambassador Donlade, let's look at the implication of the Ghanaian election in relationships with Nigerians and Nigerians doing business in Ghana, the bilateral agreements and all that. How will Nigerians feel Nigerians there doing business? Briefly.
I think Nigerians are going to go along with what the Ghanaians have decided. But before I even address this question, please, I would like to just say a few words on the question raised by Mr. Osalolo that see and buy. In Ghana, the security forces have also acquired great experiences, and they have been apolitical. They have protected the electoral processes, and they are determined to ensure a credible, free and fair elections. This issue of compromise, I don't think it is a rampant issue. It is an issue that will rear its heads in Ghana. There could be some few bad eggs, but on the whole, I think the credibility of the armed forces to ensure that the electoral process is protected, I think is well known. Secondly, the issue of bilateral agreements and trade agreements, these are agreements that are in place, and I do not think a change of government, if it occurs, will hamper anything. Generally, Ghana has set the pace. Ghana is the beacon, actually, of democracy in Africa. And from all indication, I think the litmus test has been demonstrated, especially with all the elections that I have mentioned that took place in African countries. What we are waiting for now is the next election that is scheduled to take place this December in Niger, in Central African Republic, and of course in Somalia. It is our hope that it will not descend into chaos as a result of interest or external forces that will try to improve. Yes.
All right. On that note, I would like to appreciate you, Ambassador Dauda Donlade, Nigeria's former High Commissioner to Pakistan, for your contribution to our discussion on the Ghana elections this morning. Thank you very much. Then our deep thanks also to our own correspondent in Accra, Ghana, covering the elections, Musbah Don Wahab. Musbah, thanks a lot for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria. We wish you Johnny Mercy's back home. Okay, so that does it today for us on Good Morning Nigeria. Thanks for being around. We're back tomorrow, same time, 7 in the morning. Until then, take care of yourself, stay safe and be well. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Jumo Yusuf. Do have a wonderful week.